this edition of HCS Matters. My name is John Wright. I'm the Director of Public Relations for Hardin County Schools, and we're standing in the vestibule at Bluegrass Middle School. Dr. Tanya Jury is the principal here, and they have really kind of captained and led an initiative for us. It's called Project-Based Learning. And Dr. Jury, tell us a little bit what project-based learning is.
Sure. So project-based learning is where we allow our students opportunities to really take control of what their learning is. It is authentic learning. It is how they can take learning about communication, working with others in collaboration, written communication, and really put that to the test with the real world. So they meet with community members, they take their ideas and just run with it and create what they want to create. And
we've been kind of doing this. I mean, this is not new. I mean, it's not the first. We've never not communicated with each other and
right.
like that. But why this focus and why give it this fancy name all of a sudden?
So it's very intentional now, and so in the past, you know, when we went to school, it was you sit, you listen to your teachers, you take a test on Friday, and you move on to the next thing. And so it's very different now. It's all about the students taking ownership. We have a different kind of learner now, and we piloted this last year. Well, I won't say piloted because we ran with it, but our sixth grade team implemented this last year, and they said, please don't make me go back to teaching the way I used to, because they understand and they see the value in it, and they see that the students are really making a difference with it. So this year we've started with our seventh grade as well.
And so we've kind of, I'm glad you said you kind of piloted it, but the rest of the district has kind of grasped onto it as well, haven't they?
They have.
Right.
It's been neat to see. We've had several schools visit ours from within the district to see our sixth grade team in action and to see how it works. And a lot of times people think it's this great big change, and they come in and they're like, oh, we can do that. It's things that we want our kids to be able to do once they graduate, those soft skills that we talk about, that we want the kids to know, and they're learning at a very early age, and they're doing so well with it.
What has been I guess first of all, the students' reaction to this? I mean, how have you seen them grow, mature, not just with pen and paper and test scores, but with just regular old common sense?
It has been amazing, really. Even the kids have said, please don't make me go back to the way that things used to be, and they have been begging to continue to do this. Our eighth graders aren't necessarily all doing it this year, but we have had several teachers who have jumped on board and started it, and they're like, oh, this is great. They love it. They have noticed a change in how they work with each other. Even when they communicate with adults, you can definitely see the change. Our behavior numbers have improved. Our overall academic numbers have improved. So we're seeing great results from it.
Okay. As our workforce is struggling to find employees and things like that, how do you see this? And ask you to look into your crystal ball, but as a person that hires employees and as a leader, how do you see this helping to solve that problem?
We've talked to several employers, and you know, they say the same thing all the time. We want good people. We want people who have those soft skills, who can communicate, who can collaborate, who can think for themselves, who can problem solve. And those are the skills that we're teaching students, and we can see a difference in the classroom, and I know that it's going to carry over to the workplace.
So instead of sitting in U.S. history and learning that, you know, Columbus came to America in 1492, and, you know, we wrote the Declaration of Independence in 1776. How are we shifting that now with project-based learning to further to understand those facts even more?
So students still have to read and write and learn science and social studies and math and all of those things. That didn't go away, but they just get an opportunity now they do different projects with it, so they get to decide, okay, this is what I'm learning about. How am I going to take it deeper and learn more? At the beginning of the school year, we always go over what are our expectations. How do we want you to behave in school? What does that need to look like? And so our students now are doing a project to where they are the ones telling the story. And so they are doing infographics, they're doing videos, they're helping students who are new to bluegrass learn to acclimate to our environment.
And so somebody may hear that and go, well, so what are our teachers doing? But they're facilitating and they're enhancing that growth.
Absolutely. The teachers are more of a facilitator, so they're asking the questions, things that students may not think about. They are leading the process of, we go in and we think about what do we know and what do we already what do we need to know? And so our students really, before it was okay, everybody was getting the same kind of thing perhaps, and now it's, if they know it, why are we doing it again? So we're really taking what they know and just looking at what they need to know and leading it from there.
Right. We touched on it a little bit earlier, and so when your students leave here as 8th graders, they're going to across the yard, literally, to John Hardin High School. So how will this, I mean, so they are now charged with continuing this, because project-based learning, that's what it is in the real world, right?
It is. It's really a real-world concept. We have had community members come in and work with our students. We've had our students go into the community and really put these things to use. So it's worked out well. John Hardin is doing the same kind of thing with project-based learning, and so I'm glad, because our kids wouldn't let them do without it. So our 6th graders went to 7th grade, and they're teaching the teachers and really showing them the process. And they are creating what's called community agreement, so they're figuring out how can we do a contract with each other to be able to get our work done. Real good stuff.
I don't know how many new teachers you had to hire this year, but I would think if I was a teacher coming into this and I heard in the interview that, hey, Bluegrass Middle School is doing this, I think I would jump all over that.
They have been. Right. That's one of the first things that we talk about whenever we, are talking about our school, because of the changes that we've seen and the positive changes. And so they have really jumped in on board, and they've met with the teachers who have been here and who have been doing it, and they've started it in their own classrooms. So it's been good. We're
going to walk into, I think you said 4 classrooms today. So what will we see in the difference of when John Wright and Dr. Tanya Jury went to school?
Typically, when I went to school, I was in a straight row facing the teacher. The teacher's at the front of the room writing on the board, and I'm sitting at my desk taking notes. Now you're going to see students in groups. You're going to see students collaborating. You may see students up at the board. You may see students sitting in a desk. You may see students standing in the back of the room. And to walk in, you're going to be like, what is going on? But whenever you actually listen to the conversations and you see what they're doing, you're going to hear the great conversations, and you're going to hear that it's about the topic at hand. Awesome. It's going to be good.
Okay, good deal. So we're going to visit some classrooms here at Bluegrass Middle School to show you what this project-based learning is all about. So we're in Ms. Rowlett's 7th grade, you said 7th grade language arts class, working with Canva, which is a graphics program where they create graphics. So tell us what we're seeing here before we ask Ms. Vincent or Ms. Rowlett what's going on.
So these students in 7th grade, this is what we were talking about earlier, where they're working together to create a brochure for any new students who are coming to Bluegrass. And so they have decided what rules that they want to focus on and what it means to be a bulldog. And so they are going through and creating that presentation so that we can actually use this when we have new students come to Bluegrass. They'll sit with the student from this class, and they'll get to learn all about life as a bulldog.
So they're still learning those same English standards, in language arts. Absolutely. They're still learning those same when to use a comma, when not to use a comma, question marks, all that stuff, right?
So in language arts, it's all about listening, thinking, speaking, writing. They're doing all of that with this project. They have to make sure that their spelling is correct. They have to make sure that they have correct punctuation, and they, have a rubric that they have to follow with this. They did planning that went into this before they ever got started. They had to do research by looking at our student handbook and talking to other students. So lots of interview skills, and as you can see, they're collaborating using technology, and they're doing the work. And the teachers are in here working with the students to troubleshoot or to ask them questions that maybe they may not have thought about.
Right. Very loud in here, but it's supposed to be, right?
It's supposed to be, yeah. Right. So whenever you have, I like to see that, because it means they're excited about their learning. And so they are not afraid to talk to each other. They're not afraid to give ideas and to help each other through and to hold each other accountable, and that's what we want.
Danielle Vincent is leading the project-based learning initiative here at Bluegrass, and here she works with some students. And Ms. Vincent, tell us, I guess first of all, what we're seeing this morning before we get into some more broader questions here.
So they launched a project last week where they started what they did, like a Peer the Knows and Needs to Knows.
Yes.
This is what we're calling kind of like the school survival guide project. Okay. So they are reviewing expectations from like our handbook and turning it into a video project, so that if we have incoming students or students who are new to our building, they can review these videos to kind of get an overview of what the expectations are, and it also helps the students themselves kind of get it more concrete.
Right. And this is not something, we're just not doing this to give him an assignment or him a grade. I mean, we're going to use the stuff, right?
Yeah, so the videos are definitely going to be used. They're going to be reviewed by the admin and then be put into like a playlist for new students to be able to watch.
Awesome. Okay. So you talked about know and needs to know. What explain that a little bit if you don't mind.
So with knows and needs to knows, what they do is they look at what we call a launch document.
Okay.
And so that is like, sorry.
That's okay.
That is essentially some type of document that's overlying kind of what the project is.
Okay.
And when they analyze it, they pull out what they already know that they have to do to be able to do the project, and then what they need to know more about to be able to do the project.
Okay, good deal. Well, we're going to let you work, and we'll get back with you here in a minute, but we're going to keep you mic'd up and just let you work here if you don't mind. Yeah,
absolutely. We're going to invite you to the team. Let's go. All right, and then we are going to add the project that you started already, right, Jordan?
Yeah.
So, Ms. Vincent, we talked to Ms. Dr. Jury about how students are growing in this initiative. Can you kind of enhance that a little bit? How have you seen student growth as kind of the captain of this ship? How have you seen student growth?
So these kids specifically in here, the ones that were here last year, were here with the initiative. And so they got to experience this all last year. So they're kind of seasoned themselves going into this. But I'd say from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, regardless of development and academic skills, I saw a huge growth in collaboration skills as well as like social emotional.
Awesome.
So a lot of my like very introverted kids at the beginning of the year, by the end of the year, they were super engaged into doing the group projects. They were leading activities in the classroom.
Right.
They were really developing those leadership skills that I typically don't see develop as quickly, especially at 6th grade level.
Right. And coming off a year and a half of basic isolation,
right.
I mean, these folks were in 4th, 5th grade when that happened.
The last time that they would have had a normal school year was probably around 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So to see that and to see that growth is pretty remarkable.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
And I think they also retain things I think a little bit better because it's more application based. So they're not sitting and they're learning through applying the knowledge.
Okay.
And so you'll hear last year kids talked about projects the entire year that they did because that just stuck with them better than just sitting and writing notes or doing tests.
Awesome. Dr. Jerry, we saw in that 7th grade classroom, they're used to it, we saw vim and vigor and excitement. Here's a little bit more subdued because they're 6th graders and they're just kind of learning about these concepts, right?
Absolutely. This is their first experience with it. They have not created a group contract yet. So with anything, we have to teach them how to do it. So they're doing it as a group, and you'll see if you were to come back a little bit later in the year, their next project even, they're going to be leading this process. It won't be as much teacher facilitated, but you have to learn how to work together. And we don't expect our students to come in knowing how to do that. We're teaching them how to do that from the beginning.
Ms. Harmon, I've heard her use the word in you, the words contract, accountability. And so this young man is holding this young man accountable, that young lady is holding that young man accountable, but as they work together in groups. And that's, in the real world, you don't skate by and stay employed anyway. Right.
I've told parents when we've had parent meetings about this, I said, tell me one job, tell me anything that you have to do in this world where you're not working with somebody else. And so it's a little nervous at first. You can tell they're a little apprehensive because they've not done it. We've not expected them to do it before. And now it's new, so they're learning what does it mean to hold somebody accountable? What does it mean to expect them to pull their weight in a group project?
Absolutely. So, and with that comes consequences, right? Just like in the real world.
And the students are the ones who assign those consequences. So they decide if I don't do my part of the job, how should I get in trouble with that? What should be my role? If I'm absent a day, what should that look like? And so that's why they're outlining that today, so that before they get into the project, they know exactly what to expect from each other.
Something we learned in that 7th grade classroom was, and something really hit home for me, and I hadn't thought about, these students were probably in 3rd grade, maybe even 2nd grade, when COVID hit, we shut down. And she talked a lot about social skills and how this teaches those. You've got to come out of your shell to be successful. Talk about that.
Absolutely. And so you have to be able to work with each other. You have to be able to communicate, to even as teachers, let us know what you need. And we've seen a big shift in that students haven't been able to do that because they weren't able to. They weren't even in the classroom for a while. And so being able to teach those skills so that they can learn how to do that effectively is
pretty much
paramount to
organize
their
the work
success.
Yeah, this is really neat to me because as a student, I didn't come out of my quote unquote, believe it or not, I was in a shell for a while, and I really didn't know it to my senior year in high school, and I felt myself behind in real world stuff. So this is really neat.
And these kiddos are learning it in 6th grade. We're allowing them the opportunities that I know I didn't have, that I would have loved to have had, and my kids didn't even have. And so I'm excited that they get these opportunities to learn this way.
Awesome. We're going to put the microphone on Ms. Harmon and let her kind of walk around and show us what she's doing in this classroom.
So someone in your group will need to add a D and an E because there's going to be 5 roles, remember? So if there's 4 people in a group, each of you you'll choose one role, you'll decide on who's going to do what, and then the last role you'll share, if that makes sense. Okay? Raise your thumbs up if what I've said makes sense so far. Thumbs down if you're like, Ms. Harmon, I don't, and it's okay if you don't understand, and I'll come around and help you. Okay. Kinda? Okay, I'll come around and help. Yes. So I'm going to give you maybe 5 minutes or so to decide on who's going to do what for right now. Okay? Once you decide, write down, what the job is and what does that mean? What are you supposed to be doing in your own words? Okay? Don't be afraid. If you end up with the presenter job, that's a pretty important job. And I know everybody's kind of anxious at first, and that's a good thing because that shows that you care about what you're doing. Okay? But even though somebody might present, that might be the main presenter, some of you still might have to get up every once in a while and share, this is what we found, kind of support them, okay? So nobody gets out of it. Everybody has something to do, okay? So continue on.
So Ms. Harmon,
Yes,
I'm going to walk and talk here if you don't mind.
Yes.
So tell us what we're seeing here. And, Dr. Jerry talked about, contracts, accountability. That's something that they've never had to do before.
Right.
So talk
So
about that.
today is our first day of our prehistoric unit, and we watched a quick video clip from a movie to show like what it would be like if there was a natural disaster. And we're pretending like E-Town has been not destroyed, but pretty much destroyed.
Right.
And we're like
Okay.
they're going back to prehistoric times,
Okay.
and they have to come up with a survival plan and all based on what's around here.
Awesome.
So this contract is helping them to decide, okay, who's going to do what, because in some of my classes, we have had conversations to where, someone would say, well, I was very annoyed that so-and-so did this in elementary school, and I did all the work and so-and-so got credit. So this kind of holds them accountable to it.
Right.
And I'm letting them choose. I'm not, saying so-and-so, you have to do this. So it gives them some ownership in it.
And Dr. Jerry talked about, I said, well, what are the consequences? And they come up with those consequences. So.
And of course, I review those, and if they're too harsh, I help them knock it down. But if they're too lenient, then we say, wait a minute, we got to do something else. So, but it gives them some ownership in the process and whatnot.
Right.
So tomorrow we actually start going into content and exercising these roles.
Right, because in the scenario that you put out, there's not going to be any time for him to decide he's going to do this and him to decide he's going to do that. We just have to jump in and work together.
Right, we only have 45 minutes or thereabouts. So,
right, okay,
Yes,
good deal. Well, we'll
yes,
let you get back to work.
All right, yes. Yes, please make sure you write down the responsibility in your own words. What does it mean to be a scribe? And if you need me to scroll back on the page to reread, what the responsibilities are, I can.
Dr. Jerry, when we came in, Ms. Ruff reminded them of their obligations, and there was silence. So setting the expectation at the very beginning of class.
Absolutely. We are still teachers, and we still have those roles, and so we have to remind students that this is coming in off of a weekend. We want to make sure that students remember what our expectations are and are able to get started. But it didn't take long.
That's right.
These are our 7th graders. They've done this, and so they know what the expectation is, and they are ready to start having those discussions about their projects.
So their project, she gave them the option of going outside. Everybody said yes to that. But then she said, no, we're not going. She didn't say we're going to the front door or we're going to the back door. she gave them the option where they wanted to go. So they have to work that out.
Right. So it's all again about that student choice and student ownership, and they have to decide which is going to be the best place for us. So if we are talking about school rules when we load a bus, then they probably need to go to the bus parking lot, not to the football field. So those are the discussions that they're having right now to decide which place is best and why that place is best. And they have to come to a consensus on that. So they can't go 4 different locations. They have to choose one.
So when they're working in groups, how will they get together and make one decision for a classroom, or do they do that?
They will make a decision as their group. So
Okay.
each group is doing their own individual projects,
Okay.
and so then they will decide as a group. And that's part of the contract that they created last week that we didn't get to see. They do have, kind of the person who is the lead decision maker, and so everybody gives input, and then they're able to share that out with the trust.
So those students, they're on camera right now. That they sign a contract with each other.
Yes, they do.
So talk about, if student X may not know student Y and student B may not know student C, so that creates friendships, relationships, cultivates those things at such an integral age when they need to learn how to do that.
We've seen a big growth in our new students who come in. We're very transient, and so we have students who move in throughout the year, and they could be right in the middle of a project, and they're so welcoming. They're like, "Come on in. This is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it." And they, give a role to that student based on what their strengths are. And so it's really been beneficial to see them have those conversations.
And do they grasp the, hey, when somebody else comes in, that maybe takes some of the load off of me?
They
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
They do. They learn that very quickly. As you saw with our 6th grade group, they were a little apprehensive. They're not real sure what this is going to be.
Right.
They're still learning. But this group, they know that everybody has to have a role in order to be successful. And so they really learn too what their strengths are, and they're able to meet those projects.
Okay, good. We're going to put the microphone on Ms. Ruff here in just a minute.
We are going to take a walk outside. Right now? Right now. So that, freeze. So that you all can see it and visualize what it is that you're trying to do. It may be somebody sitting on the bleachers. It may be somebody walking down. So we're going to take a trip outside so that you can see that. If you are looking at doing the football field as well, that is your time to look on the football field to see exactly where you want to film, whether it's by the goal post, in the middle, however you want to do it. And when we come inside, we are going to come inside through the front door so that you can see where you can film in front of the school. Sound like a plan? Remember, we're in the hallway. We are facing forward on the red, and we are level 0. Any questions?
So, Ms. Ruff, you talked to them about you've assigned them duties, or they've kind of assigned themselves duties. So what project are we working on first?
We are working on a survival guide for Bluegrass Middle School. Oftentimes when new students come in, they don't quite understand the culture and the climate of that new school, and they tend to find things out as they go along.
Okay.
And so what I love about this project is it's coming from students to students, and they're creating videos to teach these other students how to survive here at the school.
So how have you seen, Ms. Ruff, student growth? How have you seen this from last year to this year as you're in year 2 of this PBL initiative?
Yes. Collaboration is the key, and I have seen such a tremendous growth, especially in our shy students who tend to shy away from wanting to talk to their peers or just talking in public. Each person has a role, an asset, a skill that they can contribute to the group, and I love that gets to shine through each and every time. And so with that, their confidence rises, and you see it directly correlate with their academic scores tend to rise because they understand that there are things that they can accomplish even if talking out loud may not be their good suit.
So you touched on a big point, because at this grade, at this level, middle school, always joke, because I have a middle schooler, I can say this, they have brain damage is what and
Yes.
That's a joke. We're joking about that. But yet, they come out of that shell at such an earlier age, which is nothing but beneficial.
It is nothing but beneficial. Coming from the military side of the house, coming out of that shell is so important, because you have to be able to get out there. You have to learn how to problem solve. You have to learn how to work with people that you may not necessarily want to. And so getting them to come out of that shell now gives them so much more time to be able to work on those skills. So when they hit the job, the job force later on in life, it's second nature to them. Just as we breathe and blink, they understand how to get those things done.
So we're really looking at, these guys will graduate in 7th grade, 5 years, 2028.
Yes.
So that when they're going to be the leaders in the 2030s.
Yes,
and
they
so
are.
Knowing what you know, how good do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm 100%.
That's awesome.
I am 100% because of the confidence that they exude even now, just knowing that it's going to get better even with time. It can't get worse. It can only get better.
Right. Awesome. We'll let you go outside and work with these students.
Okay.
So we visited several classrooms, and I'm ready to stay here all day. I wish I could, but this should make the people out in the real world, away from these walls, feel so much better about what's going on in here.
It is amazing. Even, when students are waiting to go outside, they're waiting on their teacher's directions. They're still talking about instruction. I was walking around and they were talking about their script, and they're talking about what they are going to do when they get outside. So the communication is continuing. Their learning is continuing. They are not just sitting in rows facing the front. They're traveling the building, going outside. They're looking to see what their next steps are going to be. And the purpose of this project is to make the school better. And it's coming from the students, and who better to make the school a better place than the ones who are living it every day.
Absolutely. We sometimes we put too much weight on what adults think
Right.
in the education business
Absolutely.
instead of what our students think. So as here we are in August at the start of year 2, where do you see this going? Year 3, 5, 10, as we move down the road?
Yes, for sure. So next year we're going to be fully implemented. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade will have an opportunity. I'm so excited to see where our 7th graders who came in first time last year having this work will be when they finish their 8th grade year. I've already seen such growth in them. As we continue, we kind of have right now projects going on independently in each subject, but in years 4 and 5, we're going to integrate those projects. So math and science will be doing a project together, for example, language arts and social studies. So continuing to integrate and continuing to just get better.
And these projects will, they'll affect stuff out or things going on out in the community, won't they?
Absolutely. We met last year with the public library. They came in. We had we swabbed our school to see what the dirtiest place was. We went to businesses and swabbed their businesses and brought the germs back here and grew them. And so students were able to see that and then have conversations. And so we are in the community. We're doing community projects inside the school and outside.
You've been in the education business for a while. I'm not going to say how long. I don't want to make
We
you
won't say that.
feel old. But is this the most excited you've been as an educator?
Oh, absolutely. It makes me just excited to get up every single day and come to work and to see the kids having the conversations and to see them growing. And they just asked me, they said, can we interview you? Because we see you doing an interview now. And so they want to interview me for their project and take, some things back to make it better.
Awesome. Well, great things are going on at Bluegrass Middle School. They always have, but you can see now that you're in the building, you can see what's going on with this project-based learning. It's exciting. Bluegrass has piloted this very successfully. It's out in our other middle schools now, but the roots of it lay here at Bluegrass Middle School, and we're so excited for Dr. Jury and her team as they continue to grow this project-based learning initiative. For more information about it, you can get in contact with our central office. You can call Dr. Jury here at Bluegrass Middle School, and they'll walk you through every piece of it. So anyway, thank you for watching.